So if you, the clinical trial team or CTM and CRA did a great job during the startup all through the closeout, then it makes the closeout much more easier because then you have a few documents to collect and just a few signatures because you have done a very great job throughout the study through closeout. So that's the secret, that at the closeout you've done throughout the study, you've done TMF management and you've been keeping track and making sure that you just have a little towards the end.
What's up, my TMF friends? I am fired up today. Listen, I've always said the difference between average and extraordinary comes down to how you execute, how you maximize every single role, every single responsibility. And today we're breaking down two crucial roles. You see, lately I've been obsessed with understanding how the elite performers differentiate in the industries and separate themselves from the pack. So, in today's episode, we're focusing on two positions, the clinical research associates and the clinical trial managers. And they're not just job titles. These are people who are crushing it behind the scenes. So today, I've got an absolute powerhouse guest who's literally been in the trenches, who's dominated both of these roles, and they're going to break down exactly what makes each position unique, especially during one of the most critical phases, study closeout. So you're going to learn how to maximize your impact in either role, the $1 million secrets to crushing study closeout, why some people dominate while others just sort of participate, and how you take your clinical research game to the next level. And let me tell you something, whether you're in clinical research or not, these leadership principles, that excellence mindset, those success strategies, we are going to transform how you approach your own career. So get your notebooks ready because my guest is about to drop some serious knowledge that could be worth thousands to your career. And this kind of information is what separates the elite from the average. Without further delay, let me introduce you to someone who's absolutely crushing it in the clinical research world. Liz Adduci. Liz, welcome to the TMF Daily Podcast.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
We are so lucky to have you here.
Yes.
So let's just dive right in. Break down for our audience what makes CRAs and CTMs like different animals when it comes to closing out studies. Like, what's the real difference in their DNA?
Yes, thank you for having me again. So first, I'm going to break down each role and then we can go from there. So CRAs are the clinical research associates, and they're the link between the sites and the sponsors and the CRO. So CRAs are more of site management and making sure that the sites are following the protocol and that they are documenting their ISF and TMF, reconciling it together. And the CTMs on the other end, study management and conduct. So while CRAs are site management, CTMs are more of the study management, which is the overall conduct of the study. So what makes both of them, both the sites, both the CRAs and the CTM, what makes them, so important in the clinical trial closeout process is that, the CRAs are the ones working directly with the site and making sure that the sites are having their documents complete using the Alcoa principles and, and making sure that the documents, they are TMF ready. And then the CTM as well, just, pulling reports and making sure, checking the TMF completeness report. So it is I don't look at TMF management as just for the closeout, but it's from the study startup all through the closeout. So if you or the clinical trial team or CTM and CRA did a great job during the startup all through the closeout, then it makes the closeout much more easier because then you have a few documents to collect and just a few signatures because you have done a very great job throughout the study through closeout. So that's the secret, that at the closeout you've done throughout the study, you've done TMF management and you've been, tracking, keeping track and making sure that you just have a little towards the end.
There's something really fascinating between, like, at least for me, between the two roles. Like, how do these two roles communicate differently? Like, who's talking to who, and how does that communication really maximize the study success?
Right, yes. So for, anyone working in clinical research needs to be a very good communicator, especially in clinical operations, because you have to make sure that your communication is timely. And so how we communicate the CRAs, because I've been a CRA before, I've been a CTM project manager. So like you said, I've done everything pretty much regarding the TMF and, the studies startup through closeout. So how the communication pathway can differ based on each company. But one thing is sure, that the CRAs and the CTMs are usually communicating almost on a daily basis, or
with each other.
Yes, with each other. Exactly. Exactly. Because if the CRAs are for site management and the CTMs will be more of, study, even the CRA management as well, because they have to, review the reports and oversee the CRA's activities as well, to make sure that CRAs are collecting documents that needs, essential documents, and are filing it properly, and also pulling the reports, and, we're reviewing the reports as well to make sure that, we get reports from the TMF specialists as well that says, kind of like, says what's missing, the completeness report, and just making sure that the CRAs are doing their jobs and they're collecting documents and filing. Being a TMF person, you know a lot about the filing and the indexing that you can, yes. So, but that's how the communication pathway is. It can differ from company to company, but again, the series of CTMs are very much into communication with each other, making sure that documents are accurate, complete, signatures, extemporaneous, everything about the alcoa, and then also filed, accurately on time, so that there, we get the reports where there's the expected documents and what's missing. So just keeping track of those and communicating in a timely manner. So having a sense of urgency, it's also important, because that's how you're able to work with speed and adding value to the clinical trial process. Yes.
So can you give us maybe an example of, let's say there's a problem that the CRA has to escalate to a CTM? Like, what would be an example?
If there is a problem in regards to the TMF?
Sure, anything.
Yeah. So, for example, if there is a problem in regards to, maybe there's a protocol deviation that the CRAs are not sure of, or the categorization, CRAs usually, they would email the CTM and say, or, there's this protocol deviation, or I think this is the protocol deviation. Can you confirm? And even asking for, the categorization. How is it supposed to be categorized? Is it an important protocol deviation? Because, in protocol deviation, there is, SAEs, AEs. SAEs are serious adverse events, and AEs are adverse events. And, just the categorization and having to check if it's important or non-important. So the CTMs, clinical trial managers, are responsible to guide the CRAs as well. So say CRAs, CTMs the go-to for CRAs. Well, CRAs are usually, the go-tos for sites, like the first point of contact. And then in regards to the TMF also, even with the documents, I know sometimes when I'm reviewing the collaboration sites that we have for the site to upload documents, and then we can send those documents through to the TMF. There are different systems. Again, this is clinical research. There are many, many systems, many portals, many names. So it depends on, so I'm talking about something that it's similar to the EISF, but it's not the EISF, and it's a collaborative tool. The sites are able to upload documents, uploading their current, for example, the delegation of authority log. So yes, one of my favorite documents. Yeah, so they can upload the delegation of authority log, for example, and maybe if a signature is missing, I'm conducting like a CRA, just assessing their site oversight as well, just checking that, and I can let the CRA know that, oh, there's end date that's missing for this staff, or what's going on, or checking dates and saying this is outdated. They need to upload the current one. So that way the TMF can be updated and we have current documents. So those are ways that, as a CTM, I can communicate with my CRAs as well, or I did communicate in the past, or typically CTMs communicate. So yes, that's an issue that can occur that, we can always bring up to the CRAs or say, hey, for example, when sites are during study startup, actually, there is that's when the TMF, the indexing and all that is established, and we know what documents will be filed and what not. So at that time, for example, if the CRA does a site initiation visit, the SIV, and they didn't collect, it has different names. Some people call it source data. Yes, so SDA. Yeah, so, just where each source goes to. For example, if that document is missing, or if you don't have like a CV, or, you can ask the CRA and say, oh, I need source data agreement. You can say, I need a source data agreement that says where each document goes to. Are they using electronic, or are they using paper documents? So those are things that we're collecting from beginning, and making sure that we're not running around that closeout like they don't have the SDA, and then and then you have to sign a new one at closeout, and SIV was maybe 2 years ago, and then you have this different gaps in dates. So those are issues that could occur just talking to each other with the two different roles.
So I'm obsessed with time management, especially at end of study. Mm-hmm. So walk us through how these roles crush those timelines differently during closeout. What's the secret sauce?
For time management with, with the TMF.
Yeah, those documents, they're missing. We got to get them in. We need to close this study out.
Exactly. Yes, you're very correct. So we do get reports throughout the study, really, for, what documents missing, and just letting the CRAs know ahead of time. And also a good CRA, which I believe all CRAs should be good, right? So a good CRA will already know, because it's part of prepping for your closeout visit. You know what documents needs to be collected. You know that the PI, the primary investigator, has to be on site and available to sign documents. So just preparing the sites ahead of time. Those are the ways that you can make sure to maximize the time when you're there, because some people get on site and then they're trying to do the pre-work on site and then take the first 1 to 2 hours doing that, and then you run out of time. So it's just having that time management when you're in the office, making sure that you're putting things together, letting sites know what document you would need, and even scheduling your time with the PI ahead of time, saying I'm going to meet with the doctor at say 12 p.m. at their lunch time, and then at that time you get the signatures, and you talk about the expectation for study closeout at that time for document retention, and then if the normal things that we'll say or CRAs say, there's each sponsor or each company have their regular verbiage and all that will be, yes. So I don't want to say a particular one, but all that, the verbiage and all that will be in your reports or the annotated report that you would already know what you're expected to say to the PI. So, and then, getting on site, I close out for me. I know when I was a CRA, I prefer to have returned all the IPs, which is the investigational products before the closeout. So that way it would be more of, administrative documents, reconciling documents, making sure that the TMF is complete. That's not when you want to be proactively returned the IP before then. So that's one part out. And then you already know that aspect is closed because, the depot is, the IVRS is turned off for resupply, and you don't have to worry about sending IP to the site. You know that you've done all of that, so you just go to the site and check their documents, and then usually the typically I would say the closeout visit occurs after database lock. So that's the typical time frame for closeout. So meaning you don't need to review data at that time because, of course, the database, it's locked. So you just make sure that, if they've collected their CD or however way they're getting the archive of of that. And also if it's for sites that are having early closeouts. So for that, you still want to follow a process and make sure you work with data management and make sure that, they've also wrapped up that on their end for the sites for, whatever is in their EDC, if it's one screen fill, depending on the reason for the early closure. Theories want to make sure that all of that is taken care of. So that way you're doing more of, the TMF work and getting signatures and, collecting. I remember in my days when I was a CRO, we're, usually printing a lot of documents. And so you have a bulk to go in because, this site sometimes if you don't efficiently use your time, once you're closed, They might not respond. They might not.
Is there any tools besides relying I don't know, on the eTMF or the CTMS that CRAs and CTMs use to really budget their time?
So for tool, I wouldn't say that there is a kind of thinking. Yeah. So it's just how you plan your time and
being proactive.
Being proactive because the tools for the closeout, as soon as the CRA is done and gets back, then I can use my own tools. Maybe I have trackers and of course the report trackers, making sure that we already know what's needed. So those are some of the tools that I can, but the tools mostly would be just pulling reports really. And then just, understanding this is what you need to do and being proactive with your time. And then, with the CRAs upon getting back, just making sure that, their reports are finalized. They have all the documents. There are no issues. There are no open issues or action items. Again, it depends on the company, what name they would call, if it's issues or action items. If you've been to a couple, that difference in the names. Yes, so it will just be at that time. But closeouts, typically, if the CRAs and CTMs have been proactively working with the sites, it should be pretty quick because you already have most of what you want. So it would just be just finishing strong, really, and making sure that, every other thing is done on the, the back end, like, submitting their closeout reports to the IRB as well, for the site, and just making sure that the PI is aware of their responsibility, and the CRA is finishing strong, really, and closing out all of the sites strong. I know I've had a lot of closeouts in my career, both as a CRA and as a CTM, so I can definitely relate to this.
So let's talk about documentation. Documentation is really like where the winners and the losers are sort of made.
Right.
How do these roles own their documentation responsibilities differently?
Yes, definitely. So about documentation, the good thing is CRAs have document that's expected to be collected at each visit and at each, at the end of a visit, or, depending. So that's how, the documentation occurs, or that's how it's collected, I would say. And as for the CTM, we also know what we're pulling to make sure that the CRAs are doing those properly as well, and filing. And even also, as a CTM, you're pulling like the closeout reports as well. And just making sure that, the CRAs are doing their jobs in a timely manner. So, I think, again, documentation, it's not something to do at the end. Remember, we have to be inspection ready, right? So I think that's the thing. So that would help, making sure that we're checking, we're doing effectiveness check, we're making sure that, the documents are being collected in a timely manner, filed. For example, CRAs are filing delegation of authority log, training log, just filing those in a timely manner. SIVs, just filing the SIV reports. That's the only report that gets filed, and making sure that, those documents are filed and have been, would I say, approved by the TMF specialist. I'm sure you can talk a lot more about that, because sometimes you think the documents are there, but they're really not. Because then they're like, no, not actually. We still need this signature. So just making sure, and also, being proactive as well with the TMF specialist, depending on what each company, calls them and the roles, making sure that we're all talking together and we're understanding that this is what needs to be done. Is this accepted, or is it rejected? Or is it rejected, and why is it rejected, and what do we need to do? So if we have that information beforehand, then, as CTMs, we can set that information to the CRA and say, hey, you need to let the site know to provide this, and this is the reason, and make sure that you file it correctly. Even sometimes issues like pagination, you have, it's true. You have number 1, 2, 4, they can cause a rejection. So, as CRAs have to QC all of those as well. Make sure that there is the site number there's the PI number, because all of that also adds up. And yeah, so that's, during my time as a CRA, having had the experience of closeout, those are, with time, you will get to understand what the TMF specialists are looking at. And so that's what you'll be looking at the site as well, that, oops, you need to put your site name number, or you need to put the names, because that once they're going to reject it and you don't want that. So just making sure that, the documentation are complete, the Alcoa Plus principles, that would really help a lot, because it goes for TMF as well, and source documents. And so just making sure that the documents are complete, they're accurate, there is a signature. You're also filing in a timely manner, and consistently checking to make sure that nothing is missing. And if it is, you quickly get the sites to provide that document. And at closeout, make sure that all of the missing documents are collected, make sure the PI, and that's for the CRA, make sure that the PI, signs and that there are no missing, because sometimes I close out and then, some sites would say, oh, this site staff had already left and she's not around anymore. We can't get the signature. Right?
Yeah.
And so, you might have to do a note to file or something, but, if you've been proactively doing that throughout the course of the, trial, then you have less issues at closeouts. So that's how that works.
So leadership is everything.
Yes.
How do CTMs maximize their oversight over multiple CRAs during closeout? What separates the really good from just the average?
Yeah, yes, definitely. So for, leadership, like you said, CTM are the, leaders for the study management and conduct and making sure that the overall study or trial is going, on time, on budget, and that the CRAs are actually, the deliverables are on time as well. So as the CTM, I would say that open communication, it's a big one, just making sure that the CRAs they're able to come to you if there are any issues. They're very able to come to you, and you're able to also provide solutions as well. So for the CTM, it would be understanding the study in depth and understanding the company processes as well, and knowing how to also manage the CRAs as well. Each person is different. You can't have a one size fit all for leadership. You need to understand each person, but at the same time, they have to make sure that their deliverables are on time, and that, for TMF or closeouts, they're doing a great job closing out the sites as well, and filing documents in TMF, and and making sure that the TMF documents are complete and can eventually be archived and provided to the sponsor. So the leadership piece would be the CTM to hone that position and make sure that they understand the company, they know the job as well, and also knowing how to manage or how to lead people, and make sure that they're just overall available. So I think open communication, it's a big thing, just making, because sometimes some CRAs are, what would I say, afraid of making mistakes.
I think we all are.
Yes. You don't want to create that culture, because you have to make sure that people are, I wouldn't say make mistakes, but they're owning their roles and, taking responsibility for their actions, and making sure that you have systems in place to guide and lead in a way that achieves the goals of the study and the company. And yes, leadership is all about, motivating. You have to make sure you're constantly motivating. I know before the closeouts, actually, I usually have meeting with my CRAs and just discuss, what's expected. So, that's why open communication is huge, because then no one say, no, I didn't know, but we had the meeting.
Document.
Yes, always document. If it's not written, it didn't happen. You don't want to learn that the hard way. Yes. So, just communicating and letting them know this is what's expected, and working through it together, and making sure that, sites also understand. And that's where the CRA site management come into place as well. Just making sure that their site understand what's expected, and this is what we need. This is why we need it. And everyone just working together to close out the study that we've worked so hard from the beginning, and we have to finish strong,
Yeah. It's really about teamwork, right?
Yes, a lot of teamwork, a lot of collaboration. And, I love your tie, Nicole.
Thank
And
you.
what I said about that it's like, you're wrapping up a present and the bow at the end, you're like, we've done such a great job and this looks good. And then we can bundle it up and, archive it and send it over in good shape, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Managing sponsor expectations can be huge. Like, how do these two roles maximize their impact differently?
With the CRA and the CTM managing sponsor expectations.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, sure.
especially at end of study.
Yes, 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 definitely. So at the end of the study, we would typically have meetings as well, with the sponsors to understand what's, just to plan and strategize as well. And the CTM can go back and let the CRAs know as well. But I would say that, managing sponsor expectation, it's a matter of having timely communication with your sponsors as well and understanding, the stakeholders, what are their expectations, what are their needs, and making sure that you're delivering on those needs and meeting and exceeding whenever possible those expectations. So communication is very huge. How can we help, or what is it that you need us to do, and what is the time frame, and having steps, breaking down the steps that this is how it's going to be achieved. And yeah, so it's just, understanding the expectations and making sure that you're clear, or CTMs are clear on the requirements, sponsor requirements or expectation. Now I'm speaking project management language, but it's okay. Are clear on expectations in a timely manner, from the beginning, and making sure that, you're passing that over to, or the information to the CRAs. And even sometimes, depending on the sponsor, sometimes the CRAs also have some type of access to the sponsor as well. So they can actually be on the call. So it varies. It's a matter of company. What's the communication pathway? Is it just with the CTM and then the CTM to the sponsor, or there's a sponsor call where there's a training for the CRAs as well, where they can directly ask questions. So it depends on how each company is structured, but typically the CRAs would ask that questions to the CTMs, and the CTM will make sure that they're aware of sponsor expectations and that we're meeting and exceeding those expectations.
So, how do CTMs just keep their cool with the sponsor when things get like a lot of tension? You guys are really good at it. Like, what's the secret
Yeah.
without like overreacting?
I would say I know. So this is interesting. It's an interesting question, I would say. And that's because we all have different personality. Some people can overreact more than others. For me, I'm able to keep my calm and not overreact and try to think clearly, which most CTMs, think clearly, obviously. But I would say that it would just be understanding your sponsor and understanding their needs. And if there is any issues that arise, making sure that you're able to collaboratively work together to resolve those issues, or when there's, an expectation or a need or deadline that was not met, or if there's an issue, just having the timely communication also. If you think that there's going to be a delay in something, do not wait until when it happens and then you say, oh, but so just letting them know ahead of time that this might happen, or this is, and that goes to risk assessment and mitigation as well. Quickly identifying those things that can pose risk to the study and making sure that those are assessed and, if needed, quickly escalated to avoid having issues with sponsors of not meeting expectations. But yeah, but we all have different personality. The way I react react would be different from the way another CTM react. But overall, we want to make sure that we have a good relationship with our sponsors and that we are collaborating efficiently. And even with the CRAs as well, it's all about teamwork. Like you said, it takes teamwork makes the dream work, right? So it takes teamwork in order to understand, what's needed for the study. And we're all working towards the same goal. We want the study to succeed. And so it's just understanding. And I know there is something that says when there's a conflict, sometimes it shows that you care about the study. So that's a way to look at it. Like because if you don't really care about it, like whatever. But but so sometimes, the conflict and resolution, and it shows that we're very passionate about the study and we're all working towards the same goal. So it's just a matter of understanding each other and working to make sure that we achieve the same goal.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Let's talk about maybe some challenges. Like,
Sure.
What are the biggest obstacles that a CRA faces and a CTM, and how do you overcome them?
Yes. So I'm thinking everything in TMF, but obviously, right? So I would say that some of the challenges would be, I think, what I already highlighted before with working with the TMF specialist, the back and forth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sometimes I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, just because sometimes the CRAs can go on site and work hard to get some things, and then, maybe they weren't told before the visit that, this needs, and then you're like, okay, but what about this? But why are you pulling the report after after already, and then they have to go back to. So I would say those can be some of the challenges, but again, with proactiveness and, working together, those can be easily mitigated. So those are some of the challenges that I can that I can think of regarding to the TMF. But again, with proactiveness, being inspection ready at all times, with inspection readiness, like you should always be ready. I know it's easier said than done sometimes,
I know.
but still you can at least, try and make sure that you're getting those. And that's why with the sponsors, there are audits, there are inspections, even before FDA, just making sure that we're easily catching those errors and we're fixing them before the closeout or before the actual inspections, right? Yeah, so those are some of the challenges that I can think of, and ways to mitigate them and make sure that the clinical trial is a success.
So I've got 2 questions that I always ask all my guests at the end of the show. The first one is, what's the best career advice that you've ever received, and who's it by?
Yeah, yes, definitely. So I would say I have a couple, but I would say one. So the best advice I had, or one of, is to always be your own best advocate, like be your own advocate, because so many times you're expecting people to help you with, just being your own best advocate. Do what needs to be done for you. Take care of you. If you need to learn something in order to, know whatever, depending on what you're trying to achieve, just go for it. Don't wait on people too much. Just do what you need to do and always do your best at all times. Put your best foot forward. But those are some of the advice that helped me, to always be my own best advocate, and also just do my best, do your best, and leave the rest. But at least you know that you've done your best and you've tried. Yeah. So that's what I can think of. And I hope it's good enough.
That is very, very good advice, right?
Okay,
no one's coming to save us. We're our best own advocates. And if we don't speak up, nobody will ever know.
No.
And like you said, at the end of the day, all you can do is your best. And that's all
Yes.
we ever ask in clinical research. Just do your best.
Yes, exactly. Do your best.
That's right. What's your favorite TMF document and why?
I think I said that earlier.
You said it was one of them, so I didn't know if that was it.
Okay. Well, I have a couple, but I would say, the delegation of authority. I'll just and that's because it gives like a very quick overview of all of the, people that are working on the study. So, it's the PI, the supervisor, everyone. Depending on the procedures that are being added and what type of study, if they're raters or so that's one of my favorite TMF documents because you just have that quick overview. And even during monitoring as well, as CRAs, they have to review that and make sure that the right staff is conducting the assessment. So it's a very important document, really, because even during inspections, those are one of the documents that are typically checked just to overall PI oversight. And PR oversight is huge, right? In clinical trial, because that's pretty much what it is. You want to make sure that the PI has oversight for the studies, appropriately delegating. And that's why I think it's a very important document that shouldn't be taken lightly.
You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Liz, thank you so much for coming on the TMF Daily Podcast. I'm just so grateful for you to come on and you took time out of your busy day just to share everything you know about the CRA and the CTM role.
Yes, thank you for having me with Nicole. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.